welcome into the latest edition of The Town here on BCTV. I'm your trusty host, Thomas Greenberg, joined tonight by Connor Hawley. We're here to get you caught up on all sports stories from the past week. The biggest story of the week has to be Boston College football. They made a bowl game. They beat Wake Forest 17-14. Their defense was dominant. Patrick Towles had the drive of his BC career. They ended up winning the game, and we want to talk about what we can take away from the regular season heading into that bowl game. What are your takeaways, Connor?
First of all, Tom, great to be here.
Absolutely.
Love talking to you. But
love to have you on.
It's been a whirlwind of a season, to be perfectly honest. BC started off the year with that terrible loss against Georgia Tech, had them pinned 4th and 19 in the fourth quarter with a lead. And then in that game against Wake Forest, BC fans were having flashbacks to that game down the stretch, had the lead. Wake Forest was driving, and luckily they held on with a great interception at the end by Lucas Dennis. I think the takeaways from the season is there's a lot of improvement needed to be done on the offensive side of the football. That's the biggest thing for me. The defense had a lot of stability with Harold Landry up front on the defensive line. Then you had John Johnson in the secondary. We did see a little drop-off in the production from the secondary perspective with the loss of Justin Simmons. But I think overall the defense is not what I'm concerned about since they have a lot of guys returning next year. Offensively, though, the team really needs to get better from an offensive line perspective and find a stable presence at the quarterback position. This year, Patrick Towles was up and down all season long. He had some flashes of brilliance, but on the whole, I think people can agree you could question his decision-making in a lot of big spots during the season. Had that great drive against Wake Forest at the end that allowed them to get to a bowl game, but still, this team, 6-6, it's exactly what you expect out of a 6-6 team. Okay, good enough to make a bowl, but still a lot of areas for improvement from a program perspective.
Absolutely. You know, I agree on a lot of those points, Connor. I think it is ironic that the two biggest plays in the ACC this year for Boston College came from Cameron Moore with that interception over against NC State right at the last drive to seal the game. And then, like you said, Lucas Dennis in the game over Wake Forest, when all season long the front seven was the dominant force on that BC defense. Paul Pasqualani came from the NFL. I think he turned around that defensive front. Zach Allen, Harold Landry, who you mentioned, Truman Goodapple, they all had career years. And then with that linebacking unit of Ty Schwab, Matt Milano, Connor Strahan, you know, our secondary was the problem. I think John Johnson was our real bright spot, but our cornerbacks did get beat on a few plays this year, which was disconcerting. But the defense wasn't the problem. It was the offense. The offense couldn't move the ball. It wasn't aggressive play calling on the coaching front. I don't think they developed Patrick Towles as much as they really should have this season because he did have a big arm and they could have used it more. We saw that with plays down the field to Jeff Smith. And there's big receivers there with Charlie Callanan, Tommy Sweeney. There are guys who can make plays on that offensive side. And if BC wants to move in the right direction with this program, they're going to have to change that up next year, whether it's developing Anthony Brown at the quarterback position or finding someone new. Hopefully it's not a graduate student because I really don't think that's the recipe for success. But you know what? They benefited from an easy schedule, a November game against UConn, 30-0, but they did beat Wake Forest. We have to give them credit for that. And, I mean, they're going to a bowl game, whether it's in Detroit with the Quick Lane Bowl, St. Petersburg. It'll be nice to see Boston College football in a bowl game.
Absolutely.
And the other professional sports team in New England, the other professional football team in New England, isn't really having much trouble this season. The Patriots are 9-2, but we have to address the biggest story to come out of today in the NFL, and that is Rob Gronkowski undergoing back surgery tomorrow, 8 weeks out. If he were to come back, it would be the Super Bowl, but it's questionable whether he comes back at all. Where do you think that leaves the Patriots?
Right now, the Patriots, we've seen this before. We saw it for the Patriots when they went to the Super Bowl against the Giants in 2011. What happened was Gronk was injured throughout the playoffs, and that came back to haunt him in the Super Bowl. He was very limited in that game, and as a result, the Patriots weren't able to move the football as well. We saw it in other playoff games in years after that, where the Patriots were able to make it to the AFC Championship game, but couldn't get beyond that because you need the likes of your star players like Rob Gronkowski, like Tom Brady, like Julian Edelman. You need all those guys in order to move forward. And this spells really bad for the Patriots on a couple levels, and I'll tell you why. First of all, there's a report coming out from Dr. Gill with the Patriots saying that Gronkowski's career is in jeopardy, not just these 8 weeks, and he thinks it's almost impossible for Gronk to come back in time for the playoffs. So that's one thing. I'm way more concerned about that than this season. But in just looking at it right now, It's Martellus Bennett time for the New England Patriots. This is where you need to see if that investment is worth it. And if you're Martellus Bennett, this is your opportunity to prove to the Patriots that you're worth a long-term investment. They signed him to a one-year deal. He's on a one-year deal right now after being traded from the Bears. He has an opportunity here to put himself in the names with Edelman, Gronk, as the stabilizing forces once Brady leaves this offense and be a leader in the future for this team. We know about a lot of his off-the-field problems, trouble with teammates. If he wants to turn his career around and change his image, this is a huge opportunity for him. So if we're talking about a player that's really affected by this Gronkowski injury, it's Martellus Bennett.
It is clearly a devastating loss. Now the question becomes, is it so devastating that the Patriots aren't the best team in the AFC anymore?
Just because the Patriots have been winning the last few weeks doesn't mean it's been pretty. That last game to the Jets looked for a long time like it wasn't going to go the Patriots' way. I think that they're still the best team in the AFC because you have Tom Brady, because you have that experience, because you have Bill Belichick. Everything that's gone right for the Patriots in the past is why I still say they are the best team in the AFC.
So it just leaves the AFC so wide open. I can't say there's a clear-cut favorite right now. I would have to say Patriots and Raiders, just because of how high-powered those offenses are. They look like they're destined to meet in the AFC Championship game. But it will be very interesting. I think the NFL benefits a lot, actually, from Gronk going down, despite the fact that Gronk, I mean, this is really a devastating loss for him because he's been so injury-riddled in his career. Who knows if this could be, as you mentioned before, could be career-ending, which is very sad. But we look forward to December football and playoff football. But I'm glad that we talked about the NFL, the AFC. We got the Boston College football. That'll be exciting. Going into their bowl game, I want to give a shout-out to Scott Hill behind the glass, who's been just a great producer, as moving those cameras around, getting all the lighting and everything correct. So thank you, Scott. Connor, thank you for joining us.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Tom. Always love doing this with you.
Absolutely.
First and last time, but it's been a fantastic run. Go Titans, right?
Go Titans. You know, I thought when you were saying there was a sleeper in the AFC, I was like, is he going Tennessee Titans?
No, it's not going to be the Tennessee Titans. Like, I'm not that crazy. This isn't Eddie George, Steve McNair. They're not coming through that door, Tom.
Well, we'll wait a few years to see if the Titans can crack through that door. But Connor, thank you for joining us. Signing off for one last time this semester, Thomas Greenberg, thank you for tuning in. And as always, enjoy the weekend in the sports world.